There we go. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to All for United. So this is our review of the United versus Seville game and also your Forest preview. So I'm joined by a great panel tonight with me. So obviously we've got John K, we've got John N, and we've got Barry. So it's nice to see you all. But let's just get right into the review almost. So yeah, United versus Seville. What a actual disappointing game that was almost. It was United were absolutely firing in the first half. Sabitzer looked like he could have got a brace. It kind of reminded me of the way we started against Everton, where we were just relentless. We were just constantly a threat on goal, but we just should have scored more and put the game to bed. But I guess that's the curse of the 2-0 because it gives you that confidence that you're going to see out the game. But it's also it's very easy to also lose that lead. And that's exactly what happened to United last night. But everything went from bad to worse for United last night. It was like something was against us. And it wasn't just Seville, in my opinion. It was a massive issue for me. But yeah, obviously, John Keith, I'm gonna ask you first on what is your reaction of us actually losing the game? Well, because it feels like a loss. Obviously, I know we drew, but it does feel like a loss. What was your reaction to the match?
It was the ultimate game of two halves, wasn't it? Everything seems to be going right for us in the first half, and that obviously Sabitzer took his goals really well, and I think we're all thinking after 20 minutes this game could easily be 4 or 5, possibly the way we started, and then we failed to capitalise on the momentum we had. Plenty of missed opportunities and everything, and I think some of the individual performances were very good last night. Sabitz obviously, Anthony and Acuna, their left back, had a really good battle, and it was a quite a good game to watch. And then obviously in the second half, Varane going off injured at half time. Martinez's injury, and we'll touch upon the goals we conceded, but I mean, I look at it and I think it's like a big opportunity missed. And the last 2 games I've been to at Old Trafford, the Leicester game and the Everton game, and both were good wins. But I looked at it and think you could have won by a bigger margin, and if you don't take your chances more often, that could come back to bite you. Maybe last night was the game where it did come back to bite us. Was a game where we probably ought to have put 4 or 5 in. We only scored 2, and in the end we ended up drawing 2-2 in a game which we ought to have won and won comfortably. I think the goals that they scored, I mean, like you say, everything went against us in the second half. You only concede those goals if everything's going against you and all that. So, you can't really explain it. For the second leg, I think we can still go there and get the result. The benefit of it being 2-2 is the away goals don't count anymore. So it's just you can still go there and get a win. Sevilla still need to get a win as well. And even though we've had our battles and all that, it'll be tricky. Overall, we tend to be very hard to beat. So hopefully we can still go there and get a win. I do think we're better than Sevilla. I don't think this is the same Sevilla as a couple of years ago now. I do think we can go there and win. However, it makes it all the harder with all the injuries, and we've made it hard for ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, well taken, really, mate. It's like that's pretty much good take of what's actually happened. Like in last night's game, it was like you said, it was a disappointing result. But again, it was just everything was against us, especially in that second half. And Sevilla did play well considering they had limitations. I mean, it was just one of them freak results. And like you said, I don't think Seville are better than us, but at the end of the day, they just played and they got the right result. I mean, they had limitations with their striker El Nasri. He's obviously a quality striker. Obviously, in the game against Morocco for the World Cup, he was a fucking cat. One sec. One sec. One second, guys. Can you just cover me a sec?
There we go. Yeah, John, what was your Mr. Neville? Obviously, talking to you. What was your taking game? You were there, weren't you?
Yes, I was. Yes, it was. I mean, the way it started, it looked like it was going to be one of those, classic Old Trafford European nights where we had a goal disallowed within the first 30 seconds, and then 2 up after 20 odd minutes. You thought, oh, it's going to be, we're going to cruise to 5 or 6 here and through to the semi-finals in a breeze, but things just started to turn with the injury to Varane, and then we had a bit of momentum still in the second half, but then Seville just sort of hung on in there, and then 2 freak goals out of nothing, and it's back to all square all of a sudden. So yeah, it was a incredibly disappointing end to the game.
Absolutely. And Dan's back now. I'm assuming everything's okay, so I'll shift back over to Dan.
Yeah, my cat was climbing up my leg. I was just trying to talk normally. It was just making me laugh. But no, with last night's game, I just don't know how to actually describe what actually went wrong. If you had to actually point a finger at someone and actually blame someone, who would you actually blame? This is a question for everyone on the panel, because for me, I honestly blame Erik ten Hag. I just think the substitutions were very questionable, and it just killed off all the momentum. I mean, Bruno Fernandes, I don't know why he got took off. He's proven many times this season that he can play every single game. His fitness is not an issue whatsoever, and he rarely gets injured. So when he made a triple substitution, I was very surprised. I mean, I've heard rumours that apparently the fourth official told Erik ten Hag that Bruno and Anthony were on their last warnings. But then I looked at it. I've watched that area when Ten Hag made that triple substitution, and I looked at it and I was like, well, hang on a minute, Anthony's not even. Bruno Fernandes has only just been booked for the last 5-10 minutes, and Anthony hadn't been booked at that point. It was only until he started getting dead physical with Acuna is when this is. So I don't know where the person who tweeted that. I don't know why they're saying that almost, but. There is a clip that I saw someone post on Twitter where it was the first goal we conceded, and I don't know which player it was, but someone was shouting to Malacia, leave it, let it go out, and Malacia took a touch, and I think that's where he panicked, and Jesus Navas pressed him, and obviously got the first goal, and that was a very disappointing when that was just down. It just went downhill from there because obviously Varane went on Harry Maguire, which is a limitation. If you think that Harry Maguire is a good player or not, you've always got to realise that swapping Maguire for Varane, you're going to see the quality drop. And for me, that the game just went downhill from when we conceded that first goal, because obviously you score an own goal. Malacia, he just should have dealt with it better, and you can't blame De Gea on that goal. In my opinion, I felt like that any deflected goal, you can't blame your goalkeeper. And with the second goal, again, David De Gea dives the right way, but it goes off Maguire's 50p head, and it just goes in the opposite corner. But Barry, I'll ask you on how you feel with the last night's result. Do you still think we can progress through the Europa League, or do you think this is the point where we start to actually lose this game, lose the second leg to try and keep top four hopes alive? Because as Stu's just mentioned in the comments, that Martinez is out for the rest of the season with a fracture metatarsal, and Varane is out for a few weeks. So it looks like it's the return of Magaluf. So what is your opinion on the rest of the season? Should we just focus on top four now, or do you still think we should go for every trophy like we have been doing?
Well, there's a lot to unpack out of all of that. So who do we blame to begin with? I agree with Dan RP Field, who's said out here, I don't think you can blame one person specifically for everything that's happened. You look at the first sub, happened at half time. We had to do it. Varane, as we know, has had a bit of a knock for a while. He's tried playing through it where he can. He's obviously not over it yet. It's got a couple of weeks to go. You have to bring a defender on. Why not bring on Harry Maguire? Can't see any major dramas with that one, bearing in mind, where we are with our team at the moment. The triple substitution was a bit odd. I can't argue with that. I think we were always going to see Eriksen come back. I think the problem was that because Bruno was playing further back and deeper, we had Sabitzer obviously playing further forward. The natural substitution then was to bring Eriksen on for Fernandes. And I think that was the tricky part there. Making that change didn't seem to make much sense to me because he'd done so well. I do see the point of him being on a yellow. It was a ridiculous yellow. It was never a handball that required a yellow card. It wasn't on purpose. It was, about 6 inches away when he finally kicked it. I mean, you'd have to be faster than Usain Bolt to be able to move your hand out away from that one. So that was always going to be tricky. I wasn't a fan of bringing on Weghorst from Martial. And I wasn't overly bothered about Elanga coming on for Sancho. That wasn't the end of the day, end of the world for me. I did think it was a bit bizarre to take off Anthony, but then we've liked Pellistri as well. So, you can always question substitutions at the end. If Pellistri had come on and scored a goal, or ditto Elanga, we'd all be saying, it was a good change and the right thing to do to rest people ready for the weekend. So it's a really, really tricky one when it comes to that. Would I put the blame on Ten Hag? I don't think I would. Would I put the blame on a particular player? I don't think I would. We've mentioned about Malacia. He didn't have his best game. We've got to be honest about that. He's had much better games and he will have much better games, but this one was pretty poor. I don't know whether or not he could have left that ball. I don't know what he could have done. I actually did put a bit more blame onto De Gea than I normally would because it's his near post. I'm a big believer that goalkeepers should never be beaten at their near post. That's like their bread and butter. If it had gone and deflected further beyond him at the far post, I think I could have taken that. I think I was annoyed to see that squeaking at the near post. So I was a bit annoyed with him on that one. But equally, Malacia could have dealt with it better as well. I think then when you move to the second goal, Maguire, there's no chance. There was nothing he could have done about that. I mean, when you look at the replay from a certain angle, the header, had Maguire not been there, was going to the corner flag. It was so far wide, it was unbelievable. So it didn't matter whose head it hit or what shape their head might be. It was always going to bounce off, and it is the most unlucky bounce you're ever going to get. And I reckon Harry Maguire probably went home last night going, for God's sake, why is it always me? Because there was other people that ball could have bounced off, and it was just sod's law, really, that it was going to come off of Harry Maguire. In fact, the minute it deflected, I went, well, that bounced me, Maguire. It's just the sort of luck that he's getting at the moment. So I don't think you can blame anyone specifically. I think it's lots of people just dropped in the second half, and I think that was the hard part. We had watched a team go out there and absolutely rip Sevilla to shreds. There was they were literally, it was a death by 1,000 passes. We could have had more goals. There's people suggesting that Weghorst was to blame a little bit as well. He had that little ball that he could have passed to Elanga. Instead, he put it back to Malacia. People having a go at Malacia for taking his time to take the shot. I mean, he's a left-back, guys. He's not necessarily renowned for his scoring ability.
Just to jump in on that, Barry, that with Weghorst, is that the reason as well, Weghorst, for me, it's one of them games where you can either point the finger or you can't. For me, I'm going to point the finger because I think that Weghorst, that just shows about the lack of quality that he actually is and why he isn't a Manchester United player. Because for me, a confident striker will hit that and try and score, whether it goes in or not. A confident striker's first instinct is to shoot that ball that Weghorst received. But for some reason, he went into a more jockey-style movement to shield the ball away from the defender. He actually looks at Elanga and sees him free, but then obviously he looks up and sees Malacia, and he thinks that's the better pass to play. And then Malacia, who, as we know, is a left-back, who probably has never scored a goal in Europe before of that caliber, it's asking a lot of pressure. So I don't think even Malacia are expected to receive the ball, and you've got Alanga moving into space shouting pass, 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 and Weghorst just doesn't do it. And I think if Weghorst passes that ball to Alanga scores an open goal, and the game's there set and buried at 3-0. And I don't think Sevilla actually have it in them to actually see out the rest of the game. But I know you've Barrett have said that you're not blaming anyone, but for me, I just disagree. I do think that the substitutions from Erik ten Hag were very questionable. Malacia just should have left that ball. It was ridiculous that he actually tried to control it. And with the second goal we conceded, yes, I don't blame Harry Maguire. I don't blame David De Gea. That's just a very unlucky deflection, like you made it out to be. But I would say the three main candidates to blame of losing that game, because it does feel like a loss. I would have to say either under down to Erik ten Hag. I would put it down to Weghorst and Malacia.
I think you could also place responsibility a little bit, and I don't like blaming official, but partly the ref as well, because somehow we managed. The reason Ten Hag brought Bruno off, if he was, I do agree it was a bit odd and all that. I think if he was going to potentially get a red card, then maybe Ten Hag should have said, "Come on, Bruno, just calm it down a little." But we're in a good position. Let's not do anything silly now. But ultimately, the ref somehow decided that handball was really the same punishment as that Lamela stamp. Ultimately.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a stamp.
I'm not saying that. I know with the Lamela stamp, it's controversial. I'm not saying it'll definite a red card. I do think if it was one of our players, probably been a red card, though. Probably. If it was Casemiro on him, he probably would have got a red card. But for me, I just think that you got to factor these things in as well. If the red had done his job in the first place and not booked Bruno would have played the 90 minutes, wouldn't he? And that. I do agree Ten Hag's substitutions were. I think Martial coming off made sense. He did a good job for an hour, and you don't want to risk him getting burnt out and injured again. So therefore, I think Weghorst coming on for him made sense. I don't think Sancho again had his best game either, so it made sense to bring Elanga on. I can see why Eriksen would come on. Maybe he might have taken Sabitzer off if he wasn't on a hat-trick, possibly. So for me, I think the issue with those three subs was it took away a goal threat. Because if we had got a third goal, I think that would have practically been the game sealed and that. But for me, it just seems the subs were strange. But, it's done now, isn't it? Ten Hag did it to be conservative and that. It doesn't justify why we conceded two deflected goals, though.
It doesn't. And I think what I would say, though, about what you called it a stamp there, I think it's more of a trot on his leg. There wasn't a follow-through. So I see people's points on it, but I don't think it was ever really in danger of being a red card.
No, I agree. I just made the point, but somehow that's worthy of the same punishment as Bruno's handball.
Which was never a yellow card. A handball, how you give a yellow card for that, I will never in a million years know. That is it's a ridiculous decision from the referee because he's got no chance. And it's not like his arm's out here. It's there, which it would be as the momentum of your body goes. It was crazy. The referee's absolutely, his head's gone on that one. But I just wanted to say again with the subs, Ten Hag, all of us were watching that game going, Sevilla aren't getting in this. Like all of us were watching that thinking, this is it. They're out of the game. I don't think any of us were really thinking they're going to get back at it. We dropped off, don't get me wrong. The way that we'd played wasn't brilliant in that second half, but there was nothing coming from Sevilla really that made us think, they're going to do well. A couple of saves from De Gea, but I didn't think there was all that much. I think for me, the big issue is you said bring Martial off, but I can't get on board with Weghorst in the game. He's not someone you bring on for half an hour and he's not going to come and get you a goal. So I think that was the thing. The minute you bring Weghorst on, you're basically saying you're going to defend from here on out because he doesn't shoot. And I don't think he saw Elanga when you watch the goal, the attempt on goal, which is why he gave it to Malacia. And for me, that's even worse because as a striker, it's your job to know who's in that box.
Yeah, I mean, you said that you didn't see Seville actually getting back into this game. I mean, I watched the game. I watched the game with my granddad, and he was pretty much saying what you were saying. When Seville aren't going to win this, so and they're not going to get back in this game. And I turned around to him and I was like, you know what? If Seville get a goal, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually like go on to draw the game. And he was like, "What you on about?" And I was like, just watch. I was like, because United, we have our key players off the pitch at this point. They're bringing on attacking midfielders, strikers. They're going more forward. They're becoming more aggressive. And United are just defending for our lives. And obviously, when we conceded that second goal, we were down to 10 men as United had already made their 5 substitutions. And Martinez literally just couldn't walk. So, and obviously he's now out for the rest of the season, which hopefully doesn't have the effects that when Van Dijk got injured for Liverpool, because we know how good Van Dijk was a few years ago. And then he got that horrific injury and was pretty much out for the majority of the season. He was out for a long period of time. And then he's just never really got back to his top form again. And it would pain me to see Martinez never get back to his best. But obviously, this is all hypothetical. It's only just been announced that Martinez is out for the season. It is a massive setback, but we need to move on. And by moving on, we need to talk about the Nottingham Forest game. So, John N, I'm going to come to you first. So, do you know much about Nottingham Forest and how they set up, or do you know like who do you think is going to be their key player in a game like this?
Well, I think it's Brennan Johnson's their main danger man. He's got pace in abundance, so obviously he's the main one to watch out for. So we've obviously looked like we've lost a bit of pace in defence with the injuries, so that's going to be something that they're going to have to work on, and it looks like it's going to make the game a bit trickier on Sunday. But you'd still like to think that we've got enough attacking threat out there still to win the game on Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, Brennan Johnson is probably their key player in all this. I would have to say as well that probably Morgan Gibbs-White as well. He's been a very good player. Their link-up play between Brennan Johnson and Morgan Gibbs-White has been very impressive this season. I have spoken to a few Nottingham Forest fans, and they have said that they'd be happy if they even got a draw of this game, never mind a win, because I think they're starting to feel the pressure now with relegation. And it just really depends on if they're going to be up for it or not. It could go either way, in my opinion. And I would have to say that if Brennan Johnson does attack United's left-hand side, where we have now lost a lot of pace, that's probably where they might get something out of it. It's going to be an absolute battle, I think. But United's starting 11 should be quite strong. I mean, it's not as strong as what it has been over recent games, but I personally think the predicted 11 will be De Gea, Dalot, Maguire, Lindelof, Malacia, Casemiro, Sabitzer, Bruno Fernandes, Antony, Martial, and Jadon Sancho. And I don't know if any of you would do it differently to that. I mean, I think the only one that you could probably change is probably Wan-Bissaka for Dalot, but I do think that Erik ten Hag will probably want that extra attacking man for Dalot going more forwards, and because you are going away from home. So I would say that Dalot will probably play over Wan-Bissaka, but that's the only up for debate that I'd say is Wan-Bissaka for Dalot. John, what do you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, I probably agree with that lineup. I mean, the other option he might potentially play Ericsson, maybe, but I probably think he'd probably go with Sabitzer. So, yeah, I think the lineup picks itself virtually, and I would expect that, in spite of those injuries, that team would be good enough, hopefully, to beat Nottingham Forest. Obviously, we've beaten them 3 times this season, but John touched on, Nottingham Forest now. They do have a good record at home this season. They have beaten Liverpool. They drew with City, drew with Chelsea. And they've had a few good results at home this season, so you can't take it for granted that we'll go there and win. However, they have been struggling for a bit of form lately. I think they've only won 1 or 2 of the last 10 games, is it, or something? Not sure, but
they're winless in their last 9 Premier League games.
right, fair enough.
I think they've lost 6 and drawn 3. I think I think it's correct.
Right.
Either drawn 2 or drawn 3. I'm not too sure, but
Yeah.
I know they're winless in their last 9 Premier League games.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. So, but also you have to factor in that I think Newcastle only won there in the last minute a few weeks ago, didn't they? So, they are a tough outfit at home, and I've always had the belief that they might stay up in the league because I think their home is a little bit of a fortress for them. It's a tough place to go. So, for us to go there and win, we have to be professional, and we can't take it for granted. And that, but I do think the team picks itself, and that I think players like Martial could be the key. He had another good game last night. He did brilliantly for the second goal for Sabitz, and the issue with Martial is always his availability. It's like Martial and Vegas, they're polar opposites. But Vegas' biggest strength is Martial's biggest weakness. That's availability. Everything else, Martial is the more complete player. But for me, I would expect Martial to, because he took his goal well against Everton as well. And I hope that hopefully he can get another goal. And I do expect he might have a critical role to play on Sunday. And hopefully we can get the win.
Yeah, I mean, I've just left this comment up from a regular of the channel, Dan, or RP Field, if you may know him, and he said Shaw at left back with a question mark. Now, I think that won't happen because I've had a look at the training photos from today, and it doesn't seem to that's actually there. I've only looked at about 5 pictures, but the ones that I've found, Shaw isn't in any of them. So I don't know if he's actually available. If he is available, then I still think he'd end up on the bench. I think that Erik ten Hag has proven that when his players are out injured, he gradually brings them back. And I think that he'll probably won't want to risk Shaw's injury anymore. So I do think that with Shaw, he will not be starting on Sunday. But I'll just read Jarvis's comment as well, a regular of the chat. Nice to see you, pal. Interacting. Make sure you interact with your comments down below, as well as leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. But yeah, Jarvis has said, my concern is Jadon Sancho. I don't think he brings anything to the team. I would consider Alanga purely for his pace because we lack backroom threat in our attack. I completely agree with you, Jarvis, to be honest. But Alanga has been one of them players who, in certain fans' eyes, has been an icon shit for a year. And I think that with Alanga, his development has been ruined because he was brought through last season under Ralph Rangnick, and unfortunately we had no depth up front. It was literally just Ronaldo scoring goals. Martial went out on loan to Seville. Cavani was obviously injured. Rashford was out of form. Sancho was out of form. So Rangnick brought through a young, inexperienced Alanga, and we just expected the world of him. And I feel sorry for Alanga because I really do rate him as a player, and I just think that you look at the likes of Amad Diallo, who's having a great season at Sunderland out on loan. Palestra, he's had some loan experience, and I just think that Alanga would probably be better than them players if he had them loan opportunities, and unfortunately he hasn't. But would we go for Alanga? I don't think he will. I do think Ten Hag will stick with Jadon Sancho. If it was something that I would do, I would go for Alanga over Sancho purely for pace. But I do think that this is the predictor 11. This is what Erik ten Hag is probably going to go for. So I do think that Erik ten Hag, knowing what the manager does, he doesn't like to risk bringing his players back early from injury. And I do think he likes players who are more mobile. So, and I do think Jadon Sancho was good in building up in possession. And people forget as well, we literally scored the first 30 seconds, but Jadon Sancho was offside and in last night's game. So Jadon Sancho can be a threat. I just think that Jadon Sancho is just going to be one of them players where his progress getting back into form is going to be a lot slower than everyone else's. But let's just have a look at some more of the comments. Barry, I'm going to ask you a question in a second. We have from Talk Forest TV. Nice to see you, pal. We've got Dan. We've got a lot of Dans in the chat tonight. Jesus Christ. But yeah, with Dan again, with RP Field, Eric Ten Hag mentioned he may be fit for that game with Scott McTominay. Well, if that's the case, pal, then I'd like to see Luke Shaw back. I have criticised Luke Shaw a lot. I do think that his pace is massively lacking, and I do think Shaw would be better as that left centre half, especially with us being short of centre backs at the moment. I do think that Shaw would help out a lot and be that replacement for Martinez. I'm not saying he's on the same level, but I do think that with Eric Ten Hag's system, going for pace at fullbacks, Malacia does suit that system more than Luke Shaw. I know Luke Shaw is a lot more experienced and a lot more compact and composed, but I do think that Luke Shaw would be better as a centre half in the replacement for Martinez instead of sticking out on the left back. So if he is available, then I would like to see it. And with McTominay as well, I would just like to say that I do think that he will stick with Sabitzer. I think we can all admit Sabitzer had probably one of his best games in a United shirt last night. So yeah, Barry, just talking about how do you think he's going to set up? Do you think that Shaw or McTominay have a chance, or do you think that the predicted 11 that I mentioned will probably be the correct one?
I mean, it's tricky, isn't it? You look at the list of people that we've got out at the moment, they're doubtful. I mean, I think Scott's got more chance than Luke at the moment. Seems to be the general consensus that I've seen. I think, yeah, I mean, Shaw, Rashford and Varane, we might see them before the end of the month, but I'm not expecting really to see them. Garnacho still got a few days to go on his ankle injury, so it'll be interesting to see how it goes with him, whether we can get him back at any point. But I think in general, I tend to agree with what's been said. Another option that some people haven't thrown out yet is that he might decide to start with Weghorst up front and put Martial out to the left, which wouldn't be unheard of for Martial. If they do that, then I might have to switch the radio off on the way back and sort of check the score on Sky, and he'll probably score a hat-trick just to shut me up, so that'll be good. But yeah, I think the lineup you gave pretty much made sense. I think we're looking at
Can't ignore the last time we played Forest away in a league game.
There you go. But yeah, so I think that's possible. Sancho probably will be the left mid. I think Martial will start up front. Anthony will probably start. So I don't see the front three changing. That makes sense as to why the substitutions were made, because you're resting them for the weekend. So I don't see there being too many changes. It's in defence. I would be intrigued to know. You said you'd like Luke Shaw to be back in at left centre back. Partnering who?
I'd go for Lindelof over Maguire, but I do think that if it is Eric Ten Hag and Luke Shaw is available, I do think it would be Maguire and Luke Shaw. But if I was picking, I would go for Lindelof and Shaw.
Okay, well, there you go. I think it'll be too early for sure. Even if he is back, I think he'd start on the bench and that they'd bring him on and test the waters, so to speak, especially with Seville coming up as well. So
I think the crucial thing to read, Maguire's missing the semi-final against Brighton.
Oh no, what a shame.
Suspension, so that might be the game Luke Shaw plays centre half if he's back.
Absolutely. See, the thing is, though, is you look at I know how much you love stats, Dan, so I'm going to throw these one out for you. But you look at the game we're playing in, and it's mad. Forest are like 17th in terms of goals scored per match. They're not even reaching a goal a game as yet. They've conceded more penalties this season, 8 of them. They haven't kept a clean sheet in 9 matches. We've got the best clean sheets, keeping 13 of them all in all. We're getting 1.5 goals a game. I can guarantee you it's probably going to be 0-0 for the 90th minute, and we'll be lucky if we get one, and it won't be a penalty. So that's all these stats are telling me. It's going to be a bloody nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, Actually, like considering Barry, you've just said score predictions. Well, John N, I'll ask you first. What would your score prediction be for tomorrow on the game? Tomorrow? I don't wish it was tomorrow. I mean Sunday.
Sunday. I think I'll go 3-1 United. I think we could. I think we might probably hopefully score first. Might get 2-0 up, and then I could see them maybe pulling one back and finish it off late on.
Yeah. John, okay, what would you say the score prediction for?
I will. I'll probably say 2-0, maybe. I don't think we'll. I think if we do win, I think it'll be quite conservative. It wouldn't surprise me if it's like 1-0 or 2-0. We don't tend to win big. I think we've only won one game in the league away from home by more than a goal once, which was Leeds. Every other game we won by goals. So to me, it probably won't be more than 1-0 or 2-0, but I'll go 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, we can admit that our away record this season is kind of where we are in the table. I mean, we have lost quite a few away games. Obviously, we lost our most recent loss in the Premier League was to Newcastle away. Obviously, we talk about the Aston Villa game, the Anfield, the Etihad, Villa Park. Like these games that United have lost points on is away. And it is going to be a key game, I do think, because if United want to keep top four hopes alive, then we need to win these games. And I think that with the likes of Spurs and the likes of Newcastle, our goal difference is really, really like low compared to theirs. I know we've got one of the best clean sheets in the league, but when we've been battered 7-0 by Liverpool, that fixture alone obviously set us back by 7 goals in goal difference, and that's kind of ruined our season almost with that stats. But what's Statman Dan saying? So average 2.4 points per game at home, but only 1.43 away. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of well known, really, that Old Trafford has been admired as this some sort of fortress this season. Old Trafford has become a threat to be you don't get many wins as an away team in at Old Trafford, but Dan as well, obviously providing us with a lot of stats as always. We have conceded 29 away from home and only scored 17. I mean, again though, like if that's even if you take away that Liverpool result, that's still 22 goals we've conceded and only scored 17. So we conceded more than we're actually scoring away. So
I've got a stat for you as well away from home. In the Premier League, won 6, lost 6.
Oof, right. So, it's 50-50 and
But I can remember in the old days, Fergie used to say, win your games at home, draw your games away. You were basically aiming for sort of like an average of 4 points.
Well, that was more away in Europe, that wasn't it?
Yeah, forget but still, it was a thing that was said. And actually, we're averaging there 3.8 home and away. So it's not too bad. It's not too far off of that sort of form. But that's the sort of form that you would expect for a side that's battling for the top 4. It's not title form under any stretch of the imagination, but we're not a million miles off. You're not wrong, though. Our biggest problem is our goals. And you look at Forest at the moment, ironically, we're 8-0 up on them on aggregate so far this season. I fully expect us to make that double figures by the end of Sunday. Like double figures on aggregate, we're not scoring 10. Don't get too excited. It's not that time of year again. Imagine that. 9 goals when we've got virtually no strikers. It'd be amazing. David De Gea with a lob over the goalie. Hat-trick from Malacia just to shut people up from the weekend. It'd be lovely. But no. I think, we're looking at 2 or 3-0, but it's going to be tough. A lot's being made out of the away form, but let's be clear, we should be beating Nottingham Forest. We should be. I very rarely get to this point in my life, but we should be. This is Nottingham Forest. They're 17th in the table. That's right, 18th in the table, sorry. We should be. They've not scored against us all season. They've not scored past many people. We've got the players there that can do it. I'm thinking 2 or 3-0, without a doubt.
Yeah,
I'll tell you
I
what,
mean,
if we get 6, put a pound on that, mate. You'll maybe be a millionaire by the end of it, Rodney.
I think you can put 50p on that and you'd be a millionaire. But yeah. So looking at the fixtures tomorrow, obviously I'm just looking at football here for looking at the league table, and obviously Newcastle play Aston Villa tomorrow. Now that could be a big. I think that could be a draw because Villa, especially Ollie Watkins, have been on fire at the moment, and Newcastle are doing really well in the league. But obviously Newcastle sit third right now, and they are obviously we've got the same points as them, but they've got a massive better goal difference. They've got a plus 20 goal difference on us. So obviously we're not scoring 20 goals
I
more
think,
than Newcastle.
if I'm not mistaken, haven't both Villa and Newcastle won the last 5 games?
I think you might be right there, mate. Yeah, but I'm
Both on
looking. I'm
good
looking at
form,
Villa
yeah.
now as well. And Villa, I didn't even realise how high they are up on the table. They're currently 6th with 47 points, so they're doing really well this season. And since under Emery, they've actually done really well. So I do think that's going to be a really good battle. And if Villa and Newcastle can get a draw out of that tomorrow, United win against Nottingham Forest. That could be a massive positive because Tottenham are currently 3 points behind us, but we've got a game in hand on them. And that could be a massive jump on actually helping us get top 4. I mean, I'm still skeptical about Newcastle actually getting top 4, but I just can't see it. But you know, they're grinding out results, and it just really shows that Newcastle are a decent side. But I just really can't think that Newcastle are actually going to do well. But what Stan said, so Emery manager of the season for me took over in 17th and now in Europe. Yeah, mate. I mean, there's a lot of managers this season that could be up for debate as manager of the season. Obviously, you've got Eric Ten Hag, you've got Arteta, Pep Guardiola as always. I mean, maybe Frank Lampard. I mean, he's done really well since he's joined Chelsea, but you know, let's not speak about that. But no, these fixtures this weekend could actually help us. And I mean, even Bournemouth against Spurs. I mean, Bournemouth have been known throughout the season that they can grind out a draw, they can grind out a result, and go on the counter attack and actually do really well. So you know, if realistically Newcastle or Spurs both drawing or losing and United winning is probably the best outcome of the weekend, to be honest. But yeah, we'll talk about the injuries as well, and I just want to quickly highlight over them. So with Marcus Rashford and Varane, they're looking out to be out for another 3 weeks. So they probably just catch the end of the season, which would probably be helpful, but we can pretty much label them off as out for the majority of the season. Martinez has been labelled out, as well as obviously Van der Beek. He's been out for some time now. But do you really think? Actually, let me rephrase that. Out of all the players we've currently got available, who do you think is the most one to step up and drag this team through the dirt and actually help us get top 4? So I'll ask John N. I'll ask you about that, pal. Who do you think out of all the players we've got is the main guy to step up?
I think for me, I'd have to say Anthony Martial. He's come back in last couple of games and he showed a few glimpses of what he can do. So with everybody, attacking like we say with Rashford injured, I think it's got to be him that's going to have to start, weighing in with a few goals to make up for Rashford being out.
Yeah, John K. Same question for you. Who do you think's the player that needs to step up for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think it could be Lindelof. Honestly, I think when you think of the injuries that we have and all that, I think over the next few weeks, if I think James Tucker said he's likely to miss at least 3 weeks. I think, this spell that we have now could be the most critical part. So for me, Lindelof could have a massive impact, and we're going to need to depend on it. I mean, you could put Maguire in that bracket. If one of those gets injured now, then it's crisis. Really, I mean, yeah, you could argue maybe we already are, but if we lose one of them, then it could potentially be. So for me, Lindelof might be the one that needs to really step up and make a difference.
Yeah, that's a good shout, to be honest. And Barry, same question for you. Who do you think is a player that needs to step up? Because obviously, just to interrupt you before I just say that, because obviously, you could probably argue that Rashford has probably been that player that's always been stepping up for us in recent times. So, do you think it's a goal scorer? Do you think it's a leader, a centre back? Now, Varane and Martinez are both out. Who would you say?
I mean, the obvious answer is that when you play for Manchester United, every player needs to step up. Because if they don't, we're at a level where if they don't, you only take one or two to not turn up, and you're going to lose the game. So everybody has to step up. But if you're asking me who I think is now going to need to be that sort of that Roy Keane figure, the one that drags us forward and doesn't let the standards drop and doesn't let the season go from being what could have been amazing to, a bit more average, then I suppose the answer has been staring us in the face since we bought him, and his name is Bruno Fernandes. That man has scored a ridiculous amount of goals considering the position that he plays in. I think he's something like our third or fourth top goal scorer out of the whole club at the moment. So for me, he's the one you can generally rely on, the one you can generally depend on. So for me personally, I think he'll be the one. He will be the one that tries to drag us through that. I mean, he was excellent against Sevilla in that first half. He had some excellent balls going through, worked brilliantly with Sabitzer. That partnership could really go well, Fernandes and Sabitzer. They showed that. They were working through that third lane. Absolutely superb. So I think for me, it's him. If we get Fernandes when he's fully on form, picking out the passes that we know he can do, threading the ball through the eye of a needle, and then smashing the ball in the back of the net a couple of times, shouldn't be a massive problem. And then if Martial does get injured, we'll just have to pray that Woots finds his shooting boots. If not, go and find a youngster who can. I'll have a go. I'll at least have a shot.
Honestly, mate, you've pretty much said exactly what I was going to say.
I'll tell you what, one other person who I think does, Jadon Sancho.
Yeah. It's like, because I was going to say if what you said, Barry, with the entire team just needs to pull through. All of them need to be like, look, we don't have Rashford, and why were we relying on Rashford anyway? Even though Rashford has been incredible for us this season, we don't want to be labelled as a one-man team, because look what happened when we lost Casemiro. We all thought it was going to be the end of the world, but we still grinded out results. Obviously, we did lose to Newcastle, and that result probably would have gone differently if we did have Casemiro. But I do think that Bruno Fernandes, we've seen his quality many times since he's joined us, and I would honestly put him as probably one of the best signings post Sir Alex Ferguson. Because
what a stat that is, Dan was just thrown out, by the way. You can see it. That's unreal. All I see is people having a go at Bruno Fernandes, but that's amazing.
Bruno Fernandes and Lionel Messi are the only two players who have scored 50-plus goals and provided 50-plus assists across all competitions in Europe's top 5 leagues since Bruno joined Manchester United. I didn't even know that. That's just ridiculous, because wow. Yeah, just wow, because
not even Kevin De Bruyne is in there.
Exactly. Like, you'd be thinking, but it just shows you as well that Bruno Fernandes is a very underrated player, and he's honestly, I would honestly put him as like probably one of my favorite players. He's like, because I think we can all admit, like, whether you like Maguire or not, Bruno Fernandes is that true captain of that team. And I think that when Bruno's on the pitch, all the players listen to him. But when Maguire's on the pitch and he's there quiffing his hair, and then he's pointing to people to like go left and right and stuff, no one listens to him because they don't respect him. But Bruno Fernandes, I think if you were to ask a player what player symbolises Manchester United, then you would have to say Bruno Fernandes, because even though people call him petulant, people say he's a baby and stuff, you cannot respect what he's done for this club. But let's have a look. So what's he said? So Messi has 80 goals and 59 assists, and Bruno has 60 goals and 50 assists. I mean, Messi's doing it in the Farmers League as well, so that just shows you how good Bruno is. So technically, Bruno is better than Lionel Messi, almost. But Simon Davis, he has said that 2 massive flukes. Okay, technically, it's 0-0 going into the second leg. I feel United will win 2-1 and go through. That's some stat. Wow. Yeah.
I agree with Simon's point, because in the old days, you fear the away goal, wouldn't you? So technically, it is all square, and it's winner takes all next week.
Exactly. And I remember when the rule was first brought in place about the away goal being abolished and stuff, and I was like, you know what, I actually quite like it, because I mean, I think of a game that actually symbolises that, and you've got the Manchester United versus PSG. Obviously, United went to Paris, and we all know what happened. PSG were 2-0 up on aggregate, but United got 3 away goals. And even though that's an amazing night for those Manchester United fans, that game technically should have gone to extra time. And I've never really understood the away goal rule, in my opinion. But let's have
I think that's a point. Yeah. Let's ask Stato Dan then. So, how many times are United going to have Europe on away goals? It must have happened so many times.
Yeah.
I reckon 4, maybe 5 times, honestly. And I think PSG's the only one where we went through on away goals as well, if I remember rightly. So,
Jennifer, I don't really understand this. I don't know if you're living about 3 months in the past, but with Ronaldo gone, Bruno should shine. Give him the captaincy. Unless you mean making the club captain, I think that's what you might.
Permanently.
Yeah, but
if Maguire and Fernandes are on the pitch, Maguire will be given the armband.
Yeah,
I think she might mean that with Ronaldo gone, Bruno will shine. I think that's possibly.
Yeah, I mean, and we've seen as well. I mean, again, that always comes back to my memory with Bruno Fernandes and Martial's partnership. Do we all remember the derby? I mean, the derby game was when Scott McTominay scored that 40-yard screamer. That was the highlight of that game. But the first goal we scored was when we had a free kick on the edge of the box, and Bruno took a massive step back to act like he was going to shoot. And then as he ran up, he then chipped it over to Martial, and Martial scores the goal on the near post. So I think Bruno Fernandes is just getting used to playing with Martial again, because it has been at some time now. And I do think that I wouldn't be surprised if Bruno does score on Sunday. And I do think that he's going to be our key player. We've talked about Brennan Johnson being Nottingham Forest's key player, but I do think Bruno Fernandes will be our key player, and especially with him playing this deep playmaker now, because he seems to be not going past the edge of the box almost. He seems to be like not making them daft runs that he'd be making into the box. He seems to be keeping him composed, keeping himself on the edge of that box, and it seems to be more providing than actually scoring now. But when you've got players like Sabitzer, Scott McTominay, Fred, players who are decent at going forward, Bruno Fernandes seems to be a lot better in playing that Eriksen role when he was in the starting 11. But I do really look forward to how this game does plan out and how Erik ten Hag does adjust with the setbacks we've recently had. John, to answer your question as well, Dan, we're going to nickname him now. Dan, you need to change name from RP Field to Statman Dan. That just needs to be your nickname from now on. But he said 3 times for the fee.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Monaco 9.
Yeah. Where is it gone? There we are. Yeah. So, question for Neville: do you think we need to push Fernandes forward for his goal threats? Now we have Casemiro back.
Yeah, possibly. It's a good shout. That obviously, Bruno. Well, I mean, Bruno he has looked good in this deeper role this last few games actually, with Casemiro being suspended. But like I say, maybe now that Casemiro's got a couple of come back yesterday, it might allow Fernandes to push a bit further forward back into where we used to seeing him play, and hopefully it might allow him to either be a bit more creative attackingly, and hopefully might get on the score sheet as well, which would be nice if you could do that on Sunday.
The thing is, though, John, if we do that, then where does that leave Sabitzer? That means he's then got to go further back.
Well, that's what I mean. You can't that the first goal Sabitzer scored yesterday, he was one of the furthest forward, and Bruno
not just one off, he was the
to him. Yeah. So, but
yeah.
I think it got to alternate them, possibly.
Which would you prefer, Neville? I'm going to start calling you that from now on. And every time I do, I'm going to be thinking that you're the geezer off Harry Potter. But yeah, would you rather Fernandes forward or Sabitzer? Because after the game on Thursday, I'm quite happy with Fernandes sitting deeper.
Yeah, good shout again. It's a fair point. Let's say two goals. 2 early goals last night. He did look good. He was making some good, good runs, like he did for the goals. So yes, it's a tricky one. Whether Ten Hag he might keep with that for this game. Maybe leave Bruno in the deeper role and Sabitzer further forward. I can't really decide. I do like seeing Fernandes in the in his where we've seen him traditionally further forward, but he could well leave him in that deeper role.
Is it like are we going to end up with the old Gerrard Lampard discussion? Only we'll have two players that actually can do it, regardless of which one goes forward, as opposed to having two players too selfish.
We've been having that debate about Bruno and Eriksen this season, haven't we?
Yeah, forgot that. Yeah, Eriksen as well.
Gosh.
Yeah. So
these options, isn't it? I suppose.
As well. Jennifer has just said as well with does Eric want to keep Sabitzer? Now, obviously, we don't know yet, but Sabitzer has been very open on that he does want to stay at Manchester United. That's the only bit of news that we've got, and he does want to have a permanent transfer. So that does show that it's good that he wants to stay at this club. And I do think Sabitzer, he's the type of player that we do upgrade on, because if we're to sell someone like Van der Beek or Scott McTominay, I do think Sabitzer is an upgrade on them type of players. But what you guys think of Sabitzer? Do you think he deserves a permanent move yet, or would you just say he needs to perform a bit more yet?
I'd keep him. Sell Van der Beek.
Possibly.
Fair enough.
Can't argue with that.
Interesting. He's scored more than Weghorst now, hasn't he?
Yeah. So
it's not hard.
He's scored the same number of goals in one game as what Weghorst has done in 20 odd games.
So David Davis says he should have more freedom now Casemiro is back. And at the business end of the season, you need your top players fit. Makes the difference between an okay season and an outstanding season. Yeah, I agree, because if United season on and now, it kind of feels like a movie, in my opinion, where it's like, obviously you build up and you build up and you build up, you lose to the bad guy, and then the whole era of it is, the whole purpose of the movie is to defeat the bad guy and finish it off and succeed. And it just feels like for United, it feels like we're meant to get top four. And no matter what happens now with Manchester United, I honestly think that it's our top four to lose. And yes, the setbacks are very crucial, and the setbacks are going to harm us. But when I'm talking about players that need to step up, and Barry, obviously I agree with you where all players need to step up. I think that Erik ten Hag the mentality he's implemented and instructed into these players, then like even the majority of the same players that have been here for a few seasons now who have been quite poor, we can all admit that their mentality has all changed. And I do think that at least some of them believe more than what they used to. So I do think that Erik ten Hag will be instructing his players to, no matter who plays, you're all Manchester United players, and we all want to get top four. So we all need to succeed at that point. But I don't know what you guys think of that. But that's my last question of the stream. So do you honestly think that top four is at risk?
I think it's in play. I do agree that I think we will end up getting the top four, but it's much like last night. We ought to have won last night and we didn't, and we ought to get top four, but we might not. I think this is where Ten Hag will learn a lot about his squad and why certain players do need to step up, because it does feel like things are going against us with all the injuries, suspensions, and everything that. But we need our big players to step up now. And I think that over the next few weeks, it will be tough. You know, we are missing some big players now. So it's up to those players. And some of them are quite literally playing for their careers, I think. So I think Ten Hag will learn more about his team. He's learned a lot from the team this season, but I think he'll learn in a big way a lot about his team. And, you know, a lot of the players will have to play over the next few weeks, whether they're capable or not. So yes, it is in our hands, but you know, how we respond to last night will be critically important. And for me, do you have the character where you're feeling sorry for yourselves and you might not win at Forest and you might go out Sevilla, or do you have the character and say, the world is against us, we're going to come out fighting and we're going to battle in every game and we'll see where it takes us. So for me, we'll learn a lot over the next few weeks.
I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, because you say, is it at risk? Absolutely, it is. Of course, it is. You know, it couldn't be any tighter. We've got the game in hand over Spurs and Villa, of course. I mean, I don't really count Villa as being in it. It's basically going to be 4 out of the 5, and Spurs obviously make up the 5th at the moment. If we win that game in hand over Spurs, 6 points clear, it shouldn't be too bad. The problem is before you get to the game in hand, you've got to have won all the games simultaneously that they've won as well. I'm not too worried about Spurs. I think they'll finish probably comfortably 5th, or they might go for a spectacular Spurs fallout like they often do and end up finishing 6th with Villa going 5th, which could be mildly humorous, I suppose. But yes, is it at risk? Yes. Will we make the top 4? Absolutely. I think we're going to finish 3rd. I think we will finish above Newcastle at some point. Something's going to go wrong there, whether it be a draw or something like that. But yeah, I think definitely make the top 4.
I mean, that's all I hope for, to be honest, because I watch my because I've only been doing like fan content for just under a year now, just with this season that's happened, and I watched one of my first videos back, and honestly, it was awful. I cringed so much at it, but with that video, I did my Premier League predictions, and with it, I said that United will get 6th place. But if Erik ten Hag could just implement a positive way of playing football, then that would be happy for me. And I just realised like how much he's changed our attitude towards football again, and like he made us want to be winners again and title contenders. And it's just crazy to the massive turnaround we've had just this season alone. So I do think that he's already exceeded expectations, but again, we've already won a trophy. I honestly just think just get top 4 now. I really don't care about Europa League. I really don't care about the FA Cup. Just get top 4, because that will attract so many players and possibilities. Because, like, honestly, being in the Champions League for us would help us out so much more than being in the Europa League again. Because look at Frankie de Jong. He didn't want to join Manchester United because we didn't have Champions League football. But then what happened? Barcelona played poorly, got knocked out of the Champions League, came to the Europa League and got knocked out by Manchester United. That's one of
If you win the Europa, you get a Champions League spot, don't you?
You finish it. You go into pot one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with that, obviously, United still can guarantee top 4, but I'd honestly, would you honestly, right, here's a question for you guys. Would you rather win the Europa League, but just lose out on top 4, or would you rather just win top 4 and just not risk winning any trophies?
I'd say, well, you go for the trophy. If you got the choice, you go for the trophy, wouldn't you? If you knew it was going to guarantee you getting in the Champions League anyway, for the sake of finishing, difference between 4th and 5th, you definitely, pick the trophy win. I would say. I think we'll just sneak into the top 4 anyway. I think mainly hinges on that away game at Spurs. I think it's about the end of the month. I think it's on a Thursday night. So if we win down there, most of all our other games are against teams sort of mid-table or below. So we should be in with a decent shout of winning most of those. I know we've got to play Villa at home right after the Spurs game, I think. So that'll be a tough one. But all the others, we really should be thinking of. We should be winning those, even with the injuries we've got, I think.
Yeah, I think we just got to go for it, haven't we? Doesn't matter what it is. I'd love to see us win the cup treble. I think that would, or as I've been calling it, the Mickey Mouse treble. Because it's not only the best win the league, the FA Cup and the European Cup. But yeah, I think we've got to go for it. I want us to win every match, and I think Ten Hag has the same mentality, which is why he sends out his strongest team pretty much every game. So I think we can look forward to a strong setup against Forest, and then an equally strong setup against Sevilla, and that's exactly how it should be.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of them, because I just want to see us in Champions League next season, whether we win the Europa League or whether we get top 4. It really doesn't matter to me as long as we're playing Champions League football. Obviously, we will remember nights like Europa League finals, lifting that trophy. We will remember that for the majority of our lives, because them nights are very special. I mean, United, we've won more Europa Leagues than City have actually won European competitions. So obviously that's always a positive. But I do think that playing Brighton in the FA Cup next week, I honestly, right, that'll be the game that I don't mind losing, and because even though we're talking about this possible Mickey Mouse treble, right, I honestly don't care. I honestly don't, because for me, I'm like a child at Christmas Day. I've already got my main Christmas present, but my parents have already got me loads of other presents, but I've already got the present that I wanted, so I'm already happy. So I've already won the trophy. I've not seen my team win a trophy in over 5 years. My expectations might be a bit different to yours, but I'm already happy with this season, and all I want is secure top 4. And you guys might be a bit different. Obviously, you guys want glory. You guys obviously know that Manchester United should be going for every single trophy possible. But for me, sometimes you've got to take a step back and realise that, and be realistic, that would you rather just actually secure something instead of going for everything and probably just coming out with nothing? It's like putting all your money on one number on the roulette wheel instead of going for red or black and going 50-50, if that makes sense.
I think, but there's also one other fact you can't ignore either. City is still on for the treble.
Yeah.
And so wouldn't you... We might be the only team that can stop them by winning the FA Cup.
I know, but realistically...
So for me, I think still got...
The FA Cup final is at the end of the season. Once it's done, we've got to play this match, whatever happens. So, it's not like playing the FA Cup final is going to cost us.
If we make the Europa League final, then it's literally 3 days after the FA Cup final.
Yeah.
So you're telling me you want players to go to Wembley, FA Cup final, and then 3 days later play whoever we've got in the Europa League?
Yes, in the same way that we won the treble in 10 days.
I don't want us to lose again.
That's exactly what you do. That's what every Manchester United fan should want.
We've
come this far, we might as well go for it, haven't we?
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's see. Yeah, go on.
No, I was just saying we've come this far. You know, we've won one trophy, which, you know, we've had to play a load of games for that, and we've come, you know, through 4 games in the FA Cup and all these Europa League games. You know, we've just got to keep, you know, pushing it and going as far as we possibly can, sort of thing. And, you know, if we come unstuck somewhere along the way, then so be it. But you know, we might as well just you know, we've come this far, we might just keep going, I think.
Yeah, I think you want to. I do understand, Dan, when you want your top on that, but I would also like us to get to at least one other final this season. Because I feel like if it was just like, oh, we won the League Cup and we get knocked out Sevilla and Brighton, then it's like a little bit anticlimax. So for me, if you can get to a final, whether that be Europa League or FA Cup, and, you know, have a chance of getting silverware, I think it would be appropriate for our final game of the season to be in a final, I think.
And it's like I was saying, it was, for me, it's just like, I'm getting to the point now where I'm seeing majority of our most important players this season are getting injured now, and it's getting dangerous. And I know that being Manchester United, we are the biggest club in England. We should be going for everything, but at the moment we're still technically a sleeping giant, and we are not the club we used to be. We're run by absolute idiots, and our squad is not good enough. You talk about the likes of the 99 season when United won the treble within 10 days. Well, yes, well done. That's a major part of our history, and it always will be. But at the end of the day, we've all got to realise that it's different times of football now. And yes, United were the first team in English football to win the treble. But at some point, another team's going to win it. We can't hold on to that forever. We need to move on. And for me, we need to face reality that United are still in a rebuild process. And for me, United just need to prioritise other things. And whether United go for the FA Cup, the Europa League, or top 4, I know Eric Ten Hag is going to go for all 3, but for me as a fan, it makes me nervous that we could absolutely ruin what we've built this season and end up in Europa League next season and lose this season's Europa League, lose the FA Cup, and drop out of top 4. And I would honestly rather play the safe game and get guaranteed Champions League football for next season, whether it's the Europa League or the FA or winning.
Do you think we'll win the Champions League next season?
No, but it's just good for us being in it.
Well, then this is it. I mean, I'd rather win a trophy. And that's not to say that I don't want to be in the Champions League, because I absolutely do. But I can't actually... I'm actually gobsmacked.
I'll tell you, what you rather...
With people saying, let's not... If you were saying this at the start of the season, I could live with it. But we're here now. We've made it. We've got this far. I think you've got to give it everything you've got. In all of those competitions, and what will be. Yes, people are getting injured, but that's going to happen at the end of any season, especially one that's had a World Cup slap bang in the middle of it, which never should have been allowed to happen. That's the problem. The problem was there never should have been a change to the World Cup fixtures to make it go into the winter like it did. That absolutely encroached on a lot of football clubs, and it was entirely unfair. That is where it went wrong this season. The fact that we've had a World Cup, we're rebuilding our team, and we have been in all 4 competitions. We can forget the Premier League now, but even in the top 4 race, the fact that we are there with the squad that we've got, with a manager in his first full season, this is a cause for celebration, not nervousness. It's absolutely bloody brilliant.
And that's
What
what's
did
in
you
it.
Harry
That's why I keep that comparison where I feel like a kid at Christmas, where I've already got my main present. I've already feel excited. I've got more presents of the possibility that I need to open yet. That was
But the
what
only
that.
present you've been given is the League Cup. We've got nothing yet until the season ends. You know, it's all just sat there.
You've
It's a
literally
Christmas
just,
list,
you
not a
literally
present.
just said of what I said that you could have lived with at the start of the season, right? And if I offered you at the start of the season the Carabao Cup and the possibility of top 4 and going deep into every competition that we were actually in, you would take my hand off, correct?
100%. Of course, you would at the start of the season. Crikey, I'd have taken the Carabao Cup.
And that's what I'm talking about. But what I'm saying is that the way you're talking is that you still think that all our players are fully fit. If all our players are fully fit, then yes, go for everything. But we've got Martinez, who's been one of our most important players this season, out. We've got the Rolls Royce Rafael Varane out. We've got Luke Shaw possibly out. We've got Marcus Rashford, who's scored who's pretty much our main talisman, out. And this is where I'm talking about throughout the show that players need to start stepping up. Because United, at the moment, for me, and I know Dan is obsessed with stats about how Harry Maguire is a better centre-back than Martinez and Varane. I say bollocks to that because Maguire is a shit centre-back, in my opinion. And Martinez and Varane
That's a little extreme. He
I
might
know.
not be United level sense-back, that's fair enough. But say always
that annoys me when he says, "Oh, Maguire's better than our starting centre backs." He's not. He really isn't.
Can you see where that's been just a little bit contradictory? Because you've just said that we want all of the players to step up, but how can they step up if they're getting knocked out of 2 competitions? It's not going to happen. That, you know, winning is what breeds success. The fact that we have won as many games as we've won has built the momentum. We've got to keep that momentum going. What we don't want to do is beat Forest, lose to Sevilla, lose to Brighton, and then all of a sudden it starts bringing complacency and worry. Winning is the best thing.
The other argument is we miss out, we lose to Sevilla, we lose to Brighton, we miss out on top 4. That could happen as well.
It could happen, yes. But
That's the beauty of football.
It is possible. What I'm saying is that you've just talked about the mentality of players and the mentality of the team. The majority of these players that we've got in our current team now, like for me, Harry Maguire is not a leader. He's not a captain. And you're asking Harry Maguire to lead Manchester United to victory.
Why not? He leads England.
Oh, well done.
To a Euro final. And
lead England. Like,
but he's got it. He's taken them there. Listen, you can slag off Harry Maguire as much as you like. You can't say he's not good. We have got a squad full of internationals, regardless of who they are. You know, we're not sitting here talking about Nottingham Forest, who have bought about 700 players and managed to end up with Keylor Navas as their superstar whatever it's called, ultimate team player. You know, this is a Manchester United side that is jam-packed full of internationals.
Mm.
So
I say you're delusional. That's what I say.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a good one. Dan's thrown it in there. He did lead us to back-to-back Champions League finals, but I don't want it to get to the Maguire show again. You know, I think everyone's entitled to their opinion, but for me, 100%, you've just got to go.
Ultimately, I would be saying you take a game at a time, focus on Forest, try and win the game. All that. You never set out to lose a game of football. I don't want us to lose a game of football. I'm not saying we won't, but you always set out to win. So for me, take it a game at a time. Enjoy the ride. You know, when we do have injuries, but we're not the only team that has injuries.
For what it's worth, I agree with that point that's just been put up. I do think Maguire is finished, and I'll tell you why I think he's finished, because the fan base has finished him off. And I think they should, in the same way that they finished off Phil Jones, and I think they should be really ashamed of how they've dealt with Harry Maguire, who has been nothing but professional in the way that he's reacted to everything that's gone on. I think it's atrocious the way we've gone after one of our own like that. I really do. You can say he's rubbish by all means, and you don't have to like a player, but the way people jump on everything, even on his wedding day photos, we had United fans jumping on him. It's a bit much.
Yeah, I do agree. Some United fans are very extreme when it comes to Harry Maguire. I mean, remember them bomb threats that he received a few months ago? That was disgusting, and all the abuse that he gets, then that's not deserved. I understand that, but when you're not good enough for Manchester United, and he's coming out in interviews and publicly saying that every time he plays, he leads the team to victory, mate, you come on for 5 minutes. Like them games that he talks about at that moment in time, he only came on. I think he played like 50 minutes within the 11 games they actually came on for, and he was like, "Oh, I've got a 100% win rate in my last few games." Yes, mate, because you're not playing for the full 90 minutes.
But then also, do you not think he's got a
I
right to back up what other people are doing? Because people argue about him so much. Do you not think he's got a right to reply at some point? He's been so quiet and so professional. And it wasn't an unprofessional thing that he said. He just said facts.
Yeah, I agree. But the thing is, as well, is that I try to like Harry Maguire, and I really do, because I don't want to slag him off. But it's like, Barrett, you've criticised Vukvenkos during this live stream because he's not good enough for Manchester United, and I've never said that Harry Maguire. Yeah, but the thing is that Harry Maguire as well, he struggles to defend. Like,
I disagree.
You might. That's fine. You like you said, you're entitled to your own opinion. But at the end of the day, for me, Harry Maguire is a good centre back. But going forward, if Manchester United do want to be the dominant side that we once were, then Harry Maguire is not a player that's going to do that for us. If he wants to accept that he is not going to be a starting centre-back, he needs to give the club captaincy up to a player like Bruno Fernandes, and then I think that he won't be targeted, because Harry Maguire could score a hat-trick on Sunday against Nottingham Forest, and he would still have a target on his back, because it's got to a point now that if anything goes wrong during a game, Harry Maguire gets blamed. I mean, look at the scrutiny he got against Seville last night. He could do nothing about that header, but he got pelters for it. And at the end of the day, that's where I draw a line and be like, look, Harry Maguire isn't that bad. But
he just can't catch a break at the moment. That's his trouble, isn't it?
Yeah. Exactly. And I think a lot of fans, including myself, are nervous about the possibility of the outcome of the rest of this season. Obviously, I know you guys are.
I'm going to make a prediction. He's going to get us a big goal between now and the end of the season.
And you know what?
Honestly, nice.
I hope
I made that prediction. He's going to get us a big goal between now and the end of the season.
Are you envisioning like a Steve Bruce type goal where we won the league?
Yeah, we won't win the league, but no, I think
two headers.
I think Maguire is due a goal. I think he's going to get us a big goal between now and the end of the season.
And you know what? So, obviously, we'll make this the last point of the show now, because obviously we've been going for nearly an hour and a half. But I remember what Paul Scholes said when we beat Barcelona, or I think it was a Real Betis game actually, where he turned around and said that Harry Maguire is the type of player that needs to play every single game to get the best out of him. And I do think that with the injuries of Varane and Martinez, Maguire will probably be one of the starting centre-backs, and whether you partner him with Lindelof or Luke Shaw, because that will probably be the outcome, or maybe if Phil Jones gets a chance, but I don't think he's registered to play in the Premier League, then it's going to be a massive doubt on what actually happens for the rest of the season, I think. But again, with Harry Maguire, I do rate him, but it's just, you know, I do. What stands? Maguire for a trophy left. Bloody hell.
I think that's the other thing with Maguire. When with Casemiro, he makes the team around him better, and Maguire hasn't played much with Casemiro, so you might get Maguire playing alongside Casemiro now, hopefully. So, but yeah, you just gotta be positive.
Yeah. Well, anyway, guys, it's been a long one, but honestly, I've really enjoyed it at the same time. It's been a good show. Just remind everyone of the score predictions for Sunday. I'm going to go for a 2-0 victory for Manchester United. But John Neville, I'll ask you first, pal, about your score prediction.
Yeah, I went to 3-1 United.
Yeah.
I also went 2-0. I think Martial will get one.
And Harry Maguire.
3-0, yeah, Maguire hat trick.
Not yet. No, I think Martial, and I'll go with. I might go Palestri.
Palestri. Okay.
Mm.
Well, guys, honestly, I have really enjoyed it. Thank you for everyone who's actually tuned in tonight. Jennifer has said 1-0 to hopefully I presume United. So if you mean Nottingham Forest, then I'm going to have to back you.
Is Talk Forest still in the comments? Or
I'm not too sure. I think
Don't think so. No.
Sale no. And no, but yeah. Yeah, that's the stream overall. Mostly, yeah, everyone. Thank you for tuning in for Red Devils. My channel for All for United. I've completely lost the plot now, but
do go and look at Red Devils TV by all means.
But no, please remember to like, subscribe to All for United. I've really enjoyed tonight. But yeah, thank you for everyone for tuning in, and we'll all see you very soon. Take care, guys.